Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Behind me, 2004 Toyota Sienna, we're going to be replacing the thermostat and the housing. Let me show you where it lives. Right underneath your transmission dipstick is your lower radiator hose. If you follow that, it goes to your thermostat housing. On the end of that housing is your thermostat. It's not too crazy of a job, but the air box does have to come off. You don't need to pre-drain your coolant for this. You can if you'd like, but it's not necessary. We'll pull off this duct, 10 millimeter. Then we have an electrical connector we want to disconnect. The tab is underneath, you pinch and pull. And then we can turn this over. We want to pop this out. A pick, a screwdriver, or a pair of needle nose can pinch and you push it through just like that. 10 millimeter for our clamp. 10 millimeter for our housing bolts. There should be two, one in front, one in the back. We'll disconnect our mass airflow sensor, pinch and pull. And then our vacuum hoses, there should be three. And they should be color coded, but if yours are not color coded, go ahead and mark them, which one goes in which slot. We should just pull up, pull off our boot. Air filter's a little stuck, there we go. Pull off our filter. And underneath is two 10 millimeter bolts. We'll get those with an extension. If you would like, you can move this tubing here, but you don't have to. It's a 10 millimeter bolt in the front if you decide to do that. This should just pop up. This tubing here goes into the bottom right here. So if you just pull it away, it'll free itself, and when we put it back in, you can just feed it back without removing it. All right, we have access to our thermostat. Let me pull you around and show you. If you follow our radiator hose here, we have this bolt that needs to come out, 12 millimeter, and the housing goes all the way under to right there. That's our housing, and our thermostat's right behind there. All right, at this point, we want to put a drain pan underneath the transmission. When we pull off our thermostat housing, coolant's gonna run along the bell housing of our transmission, so that's where we want to put our drain pan. Let me show you the one I use. It's just a Tupperware, the biggest Tupperware I could find at Walmart, and I cut the bottom off. There it is, nothing fancy, just the bottom of a big Tupperware. That'll catch 99% of our coolant. And just slide it under. We'll pull off our radiator hose first with a pair of pliers. We'll remove that clamp. Coolant's gonna wanna come out, so don't pull it all the way off, but just the bottom. There we go, and we'll control it. All right, that's it. We can tuck our radiator hose just up and under transmission cooler lines just to hold it out of place. And we'll pull off our 12 millimeter. There are three 10 millimeter nuts. Two you can see really well, one on top, one on the side, and then one on the bottom. We'll get those with an extension. I used a little longer extension and I went under everything, and it pretty much aimed exactly where I needed to go. Then we'll take a magnet, get all our nuts. Now, if all you're doing is the thermostat, we can move this out of the way and you have access to your thermostat. If you're replacing the housing as well, like I am, then what we'll have to do is remove the starter. We don't have to disconnect any of the electrical connectors going to the starter, just the two bolts. Let me reset you up to show you that. It's up to you if you want to leave your battery connected or not, but there is a little asterisk connected to that. Right here, this top cable is your positive battery cable. It's a direct line to your starter motor. There's a boot over the top. If that boot is intact, then it shields our tools from making contact with our positive cable. If you want to play it a little extra safe, go ahead and pull off the negative battery cable. Then this is a dead wire and we don't have to worry about making contact with it. Either way is up to you. These are 14 millimeter bolts. And there's just two of them. I'm gonna use an extension on this second one here. Now we're not pulling the starter all the way out. Get that bolt that dropped. There we go. All we have to do is slide it out enough so that we have room for our housing to come out. Move some of this wiring. There we go. Just a little finesse, little twisting, and there it is. We'll just pop out our thermostat, a pick like this or a pair of pliers to get to it. And that's gonna leak the rest of the way right into our catch pan. All right, there she is. All right, we got our new thermostat. One thing to note, my thermostat did not come with a new gasket. I opened the box, no gasket. So I had to get a separate gasket. Just something to keep in mind, make sure you have both a thermostat and a gasket. In order to put the gasket on, there's a little groove or channel on the inside, and you just make sure that that groove goes all the way around. You can tug on it, it's pretty pliable. There you go, and then squish on it. Perfect. Now you'll notice there's a little jiggly piece. we want that jiggly piece to be in the up position. That's a bleeder. That'll help air escape. If that's in the down position, air rises, and it'll have trouble getting rid of that air. So we want it in the up position. We can also put a little bit of silicone paste on the outside. Not a lot, just a little. That'll help it slide in just a little easier. There we go. Now we're ready to slide it in. All right. Now we'll get our new housing if you're replacing it. We'll snake it in. Move some of these wires. That little stud goes on top of the wires. There we go. And before putting our 3 nuts on, we'll take our 12mm and just hand thread it in. Doesn't have to be tight, just in there. Now putting our nuts back on, take a little bit of towel or glove or a piece of paper, put it over your 10mm, and then you can just put the nut in there, and it'll be a tighter fit, so now it won't fall out. We'll thread that on, pull it out. Sometimes the towel will stay behind. That's okay, you can just pull it out. We'll do that with all of them. So that bottom one will be a little bit of a challenge, but don't rush it. If you can get one hand under there and feel the stud, then you can help guide the socket on. All right, got it. Now we'll snug them down. All right, now we'll tighten up our 12mm. All right, let's start putting it all back together. So first we can put our starter motor back in. It should just slide in. Got our 2 14mm bolts. Okay, we can put our hose back on up front. Now we'll put this back on. Now you can put it on now or put it on later. It goes under the battery. There we go. All right, now we'll put our air box on. You just want to make sure that our mass airflow sensor connector is in a spot we can get it. And this duct here goes in the bottom of this. So we can just see it under there. Use our hand, kind of feed it through. There we go. Get our bolts started by hand. Put in our air filter. Put this on. Feed it into the hose in the back. There we go. We want to make sure we got our vacuum hoses too. The yellow one goes on top, the green one goes on the bottom, and then this one goes on the super top. Tighten these 10 mils down. Plug in our connector for our mass airflow sensor. Tighten this down back here. Now this just has to be snug. The way these wire clamps work, if you tighten it too much, you can cut your boot. So just snug. Got this electrical connector we can plug in. And our last piece here, slide it on. Goes in like that. Then our connector harness, let's go back in its spot. All right, that's it. Let's top off our coolant. Bleeding the cooling system is relatively easy. The hardest part is getting the coolant in the system. The radiator cap is over here. And they put it just underneath this, which makes it nearly impossible to get coolant in here without removing this. But if you have one of these or a different type of funnel, definitely helps. Get out our different adapters. Okay. There we go. Now it should take right around a gallon. You just top it off and let it burp. It'll keep burping. I don't want this to fall over. Then we want to start the car. I'm going to pull it out of the garage. We want to get it up to operating temperature. We want that thermostat to open up, circulate the coolant around, and bleed that air out. To speed up the process, we can take the RPMs up a notch, right around 2.5 to 3 grand. We want to see our temperature gauge go up, but not overheat. We also want our cooling fans to kick on. That lets us know that the thermostat is open, we're up to a good operating temperature, and all the air is out. All right, that's the repair. This took a little less than a full gallon of coolant. So yours might be the same, little less, little more, roughly around a gallon. If you're replacing the thermostat and housing, double check that there aren't any leaks around the hose, around the thermostat. You can rinse off the top of the transmission with water just to flush all that old coolant off. It will evaporate eventually, but it doesn't hurt just to rinse it real quick with a little bit of water. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.